Welcome back to Peaks 47. So the first thing I'm going to do is continue on working on this Anderson shelter from Scale Model Scenery, the Alex 360. As you can see, this is as far as I've got so far. Really easy kit to put together. The key with this is just to have patience. Glue a bit, leave it half an hour, keep repeating the process, and you'll find this kit dead easy to put together. If you try and do it all in one go, you've got no hope, quite frankly. So as you can see here, I'm going to do this bit first, let it go off, really let it go off, a good half an hour before you move on to the next stages. So what I'm going to do is this bit here I've just primed. I'm going to leave this bit off until I've got it bedded in on the layout. So my plan is I'm going to put this on a piece of cardboard. I'm going to use some tissue paper soaked in PVA and water, and I'm going to build up the mounds on the piece of card, get most of it done almost like a miniature diorama, and then place it on the board. Reason being, so I'm not going to mess up all my grass when I'm building up the mounds over this. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this glued down on a piece of card. So what I'm going to do here is, using my Dremel and a cutting disc, I'm going to cut out a square here so I can put the Anderson shelter just a little bit lower. I can then put some steps in it, so you've got one course of steps, just so this is slightly lower into the board, and then I can drop it in and then build the mound up on the bench before hopefully slotting it into place. Right, so I've dug out the foundations now. So the Anderson shelter just sits a little bit lower than ground level. I've left a gap here so the door can open, and then one step up and then another step up to the path. So I think I'm going to glue that in place now, and actually probably just build the scenery up where it is in situ rather than on the bench like I mentioned earlier. Once I've done the messy stuff, I'm then going to weather this front bit and slot that on last. So I've got some PVA and water in this pot. I've also got some tissue paper, use kitchen roll, anything like that. And I'm going to soak this in the solution, and then I'm going to stick it to the sides, gradually build my mound up. Once that's dry, use some fillers, and then start doing the static grass, get some weeds on there, and really give it the look as if it's been buried. And then once that's done, I've weathered, painted my front. I've got to lose the gloss on that. I've used a matte lacquer here, but as you can see, it's still got a sheen. But once all the messy stuff's done, you can then glue and slot that on the front. have got some scraps of plaster Paris, and I just thought, you know what, while I'm at it, I'll cover the tissue paper with this. I know it's going to go nice and hard then. Let that dry overnight. What I've got to be careful of here is I'm still leave enough room to get the front on. I suspect I might have to get the Dremel in there and cut a new slot to get the front on. The reason I've left that off is, like I was saying earlier, I just don't want to get all the scenics over the front. So before this goes off, I'm just going to check I've still got clearance to put the front on. By the looks of it, I have. So once I've done all the scenery, I'll slot that bit in last. Right, so it's been about 4 days. It's been a very busy week at Scale Model Scenery, so I haven't had much time in here this week. So it's dry now. I've got this edge here. I'm not going to be concerned about this too much. I'm going to have overgrown bushes and flowers running up the side of this, maybe some brambles and bits and bobs, so I'll lose that with the scenics. So I'm going to paint it brown now, get some 2mm muddy on, which is the same as this, as my base layer, and then just start building up the scenery around it and hopefully get the front on. So I'm going to continue building up the scenery on here. As you can see, I've just put some weeds and some vines round. I need to just get in this corner a bit more. I'm going to use a 6mm dead grass over the top, possibly some brambles. I'm going to add some purple flowers in around the bottom, and then start looking at putting some garden tools in places, maybe some planters along here. Generally, I suppose this is the fun bit now, really, is just building up the detail in the area. So as you can see, the scenery is building up quite nicely now. There is a white tinge on it where the WWS layering spray is drying. Once that's dry, that white will disappear. I've used the different combinations of stuff here. So we've got the 2mm muddy WWS, and then I've used a 6mm dead from Serious Play over the top of that. And then I used a 1mm spring from WWS over the top of the 6mm, and it just grips the side of the 6mm and gives you quite a good effect. I've also used the Woodland Scenics flowers, which are the purple flowers you can see. And here on this back corner, I've decided I'm going to do a hedgerow and maybe a fence here rather than a dry stone wall. So once this hedgerow is dry, this is a Woodland Scenic clump foliage. Once that's dry, I'll put some layering spray on it, and then again use maybe a 1mm patchy, which is a bit of a brown sort of grass, over the top of that, just to give it a bit more of a texture. Perhaps an old battered fence here with a hedge in front of it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the edge of the lawn at the minute. I've left these little odd bits of almost like I've just weathered the lawn a little bit there. So once I've finished that off, now I'm going to look at getting the building grounded properly. I'll usually sweep sand up to it and then glue it in place, which then glues the building down in place as well, but I don't really want to do that with this particular building. I want to be able to lift it in the future in case I decide to put some lights in it. So what I'm going to do is use the same method I've used here and build up a tiny sort of hedgerow of purple weeds going along the bottom of the house, basically to disguise the edge, that are glued to the ground rather than the building, and then I can lift the building out to get in at a later date. When I put the building back down, the hedgerow and the flowers are basically disguising this edge that you can see here. So I've got a 1mm winter here. I've put some layering spray over this clump foliage, and I'm just going to put a little bit over the top of it just to give it a bit of texture. So I've knocked up a couple of kits from work, the Alex 002, which is one of the versions of the 5-bar gate. Also do an Alex 001, which is this one here. I'm going to go with this one just as a bit of a change and a bit of variety on the layout. So along with the Alex 006, which I've put together here, as you can see, I'm going to now use this as another boundary and a main gate going up the driveway.